nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cooking the Books, The Sign of the Four, or something like that. Sherlock. Been a long time coming. I apologize that I've been so busy of late, um, to where I have not been as consistent as I like to be on here. That is unavoidable, but I'm glad you're here, especially on an off day that is not my normal streaming day, and it's not a holiday. Yeah. I have a slight cold. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. Here, live. That's what matters, right? I just ate dinner. Kind of early for me. It's very weird. But I know my brother would have been hungry while I was streaming, and it's easier for me to heat up the food that we had for dinner. So, tis what it is. Hope you're all having a good day. Hopefully, you can hear me. Uh, yeah, let me say hi to chat. Goddess, hello, my friend. Welcome. Testing out the new way for this to pop to see if it's any better and quicker. It kind of is. Yeah, I think I like it better than the last stream, if y'all even recall that. Sweet. You can see it's very weird because I use Brave and I have it in their like dark mode, um, but it doesn't always work properly. So like what you guys probably are seeing on the screen right now is white background, black letters, but on my screen it shows a black background, white letters. So sure. And hi Dom. Hello. I'm glad you get to use your book and read along. Always fun, I'm sure. I do have my stream elements in the comment section pinned to the top chat. That I was trying to recall. I should probably make Dom. There we go. uh, uh, yeah, sorry I wasn't able to do Wednesday this week. A lot of different situations were going on that was just a combo pain in the ass. So feel that way, but I didn't want to wait an entire, what is it, 3 weeks? It'd be if I waited until next Wednesday. So 2.5 is fine. You're right. I guess I was able to stream. So 2.5, yeah, 2.5 ish. I can do math, I swear. Um, However, funny enough, you guys also get to see the science experiment of my hair that tends to always happen. This is faded. I didn't dye it this way. This is just how my hair faded from 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, three almost weeks. Yeah, tomorrow, 3 weeks, I guess. Technically, when I dyed it last. And if you recall, that was like a wine color. The purple is strong with the dye that I mixed together. So I mixed the purple and a red to get a darker red. Um, and the red faded way more quickly than the purple did, except for at the top of my head. But this is what I do with my hair. I just make a science experiment, and you guys get to go along with me on the journey. Go on the journey along with that should be phrased. I only have Dermy playing Pokemon right now. Oh well, thank you, Legatus. That is appreciated. I'm pretty sure you learn more listening to me than Dermy too, so it's a good way to educate yourself. Hope you guys are having a good week. I almost clicked the wrong button. That would have been fun. I am still figuring out the new. I don't use StreamYard anymore. I use EVMux. So I'm still figuring out some of the different ways that things take place in hereabouts land. It's very, very different. Ah, okay, that hides that. All right, cool. See with the fire surrounding me. It's a little different. All right. So Dom was kind enough. He treats me entirely too well to send me a recap on Wednesday before we all knew that I was or found out that I was not going to be streaming. He sent me a nice recap. So I wonder. Okay, that tab is not muted. Sorry, I was hearing myself and I needed to shut myself up. There we go. All right, cool. Yeah. So Dom, I am'd me a recap, so I did not sound as ridiculous as I sounded the last stream when I attempted a recap, which was next to nothing. I basically didn't even put it as a timestamp. It was pathetic. But chapter 4, um, they get to meet, what is his name? Thurston? Thaddeus, the guy that has basically been sending the pearls, the mysterious messages and notes to Miss Morriston over the years since her father has disappeared. And he basically tells the story about how his father and his twin's father was friends with her father, Captain Morriston, and confirmed that he did die of a heart attack after an argument with the father. Um, and they were talking about like the treasure that they got in India and how Morstan wanted her father, Captain Morstan, wanted her fair share, basically. And in the midst of the argument, he died. And the father thought that he would be blamed because it was just the two of them in the room, and even his own trustworthy major domo butler guy thought that he had killed him because he overheard the argument, but he didn't see what happened, and so he rushed in and saw that the guy had died, was on the floor, so he helped them like hide the body, basically. Well, this was the secret that their father kept for a long time, and then he, throughout the years, was very afraid of any men that had one wooden leg, and he eventually received a letter from India that gave him a great shock that he never recovered from. And so he, on his deathbed, was telling his sons the story of what happened. And let's see. Before he could tell them where the treasure was hidden, he basically sees a bearded man outside the window on the first floor, the ground floor, and it gives him a shock and he dies. So they never learned where the treasure was at, but they did like see the guy in the window. And the next morning there was a piece of paper on their dad's chest that said the sign of the four. Two sons searched forever for the treasure. And Thaddeus's brother Bartholomew did not want to send the pearls to Miss Morstan because they did have the pearls. But Thaddeus insisted, and so he was the one that was sending all of that. And he finally convinced Bartholomew, kind of, his brother, to. Oh no, he did not convince them. His brother found the treasure eventually, and that's basically where all of this ended up. Taking place to where she got the message to come figure out what happened to her father. So that was chapter 4. Chapter 5, they're on their way. They get there. The dude at the gate does not want to let them in because he has strict orders that only approved people can go past the gate. So Thaddeus is allowed to, but no one else, even though Thaddeus is vouching for them. And then the guy recognizes Sherlock Holmes from back in the day when they would box together. So he knows he's trustworthy, and they get let in. The housekeeper is very glad to see them. She's in distress because the brother has been upstairs, locked away in his room the entire day, which sometimes isn't all that abnormal, but it did get weird the longer it continued. And then she looked through the keyhole and saw his face and was completely shocked. So they all run upstairs, break down the door, find out that he's dead. He's been dead for hours. And there's a note beside the body which reads, "The sign of the four." He notices a long thorn stuck in the side of the head. Looks at other details of the scene, missing links, and he's entirely connected the case. Thaddeus went up to look for the treasure, and of course, it's gone. But the door was locked from the inside, so that's a bit mysterious. Well, Holmes sends Thaddeus away to go report it to the police, even though Thaddeus feels that he's going to be the one to blame because, duh. But anyway, so he goes, end of chapter. Then chapter 6, Holmes examines the scene and gets a little pissy at Watson because Watson's not putting 2 and 2 together like he would like him to. Watson eventually comes around. Basically, they know it's the wood-legged man, and he had help. And the only way that he had help was through the roof where the treasure was found. There is a trapdoor. The police come. Wah, wah, wah. kind of talks shit on Holmes, says, I already know that it's the brother and I'm going to arrest him. And yeah, Athelney Jones is his name for the policeman. Jones arrests Thaddeus, and then Holmes tells him that he's not going to be in prison for long, that he'll be freed soon. And he names the real suspect, who is Jonathan Small. And then he adds that he's aware of an accomplice, though he doesn't know the identity yet. Holmes takes Watson aside and asks him to take Miss Morstan home before fetching Toby the Hound from the associate of Holmes to help them track the wooden-legged man. And I'm pretty sure he gets a jib in there about how the police are useless. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see me playing around with chopsticks. I had Chinese for dinner. Sorry. Didn't even realize I was doing that. But that's basically the recap of what we read 2 weeks ago. 2+ weeks ago. What's up, Cliff? Hello. How's it going? Oh, that was a long recap. Standing in line for live. Interesting. That's cool. Well, if you're still here, hello. Hi, hello, Cliff. It's not stupid, but it is David Ortiz, yes. It's like, you could put it as like a street sign. That's basically what it is. I can't remember what other one we have. Oh, yeah. The other one is Garcia Parra, and I also have a Lakers one that's in between the two of those, which is, of course, Kobe Bryant. I think it's possible it could just be the Lakers, but I'm pretty sure it's Kobe Bryant. I also have one that's like about this big. That's the Green Monster. They're like metal signs. And I'm sure you hate them, Dom. I was just skimming it, Dom, so I wasn't really cringing over it. When it's a summary, I give you a bit of a break. God, I haven't seen The Fugitive in a long time, Legatus. The prequel to U.S. Marshals. If you can hear my brother laughing in the background, he's watching FNT, so that's why. No, I don't really feel like getting them out and then putting them back. They're kind of heavy. Sorry. I kind of feel bad now. Do you really want to see them? They're not that heavy. Yes, when I'm live, how dare he? Terrible brother. He really, really is. I don't even know if he's like behind on it and that's why it's still going, or if they're still going. It's what I get for scheduling it so close to it. But I want some time in between my stream and Dermy's Ballbusters tonight. So that's why that's happening. Now, I don't know how long I'll be able to read today, but we'll see. It just depends on my patience with my throat and my sinuses. I got a little sick after returning on Sunday from my trip. I think it's a combination of Vegas allowing people to smoke indoors. And I was there for like 3.5 days, and having allergies in Colorado. So as soon as I landed in Colorado, it was just a terrible combination with a scratchy throat. So 'tis what it is. Banners? Nope. Layers. Ha, found it. I did figure out why my video clips were very wonky last week, so I deleted all of them and re-uploaded them. So now they're in order, which is nice. So let's get started. No, Dom, ain't no rumors that we're finishing the book tonight. There are 12 chapters, my friend. We are on chapter 7, which is the episode of the barrel. The police had brought a cab with them, and in this I escorted Miss Morstan back to her home. After the angelic fashion of women, she had borne trouble with a calm face as long as there was someone weaker than herself to support, and I had found her bright and placid by the side of the frightened housekeeper. In the cab, however, she first turned faint and then burst into a passion of weeping. So sorely had she been tried by the adventures of the night. She has told me since that she thought me cold and distant upon that journey. She has told me since that she thought me cold and distant upon that journey. She little guessed the struggle within my breast, or the effort of self-restraint which held me back. My sympathies and my love went out to her, even as my hand had in the garden. I felt that years of the conventionalities of life could not teach me to know her sweet, brave nature, as had this one day of strange experiences. Yet there were two thoughts which sealed the words of affection upon my lips. She was weak and helpless, shaken in mind and nerve. It was to take her at a disadvantage to obtrude love upon her at such a time. Worse still, she was rich. If Holmes's researches were successful, she would be an heiress. Was it fair, was it honorable, that a half-pay surgeon should take such advantage of an intimacy with which chance had brought about? Might she not look upon me as a mere vulgar fortune-seeker? I could not bear to risk that such a thought should cross her mind. This agra treasure intervened like an impassable barrier between us. It was nearly 2 o'clock when we reached Mrs. Cecil Forrester's. The servants had retired hours ago, but Mrs. Forrester had been so interested by the strange message which Miss Morstan had received that she had sat up in the hope of her return. She opened the door herself, a middle-aged, graceful woman, and it gave me joy to see how tenderly her arm stole around the other's waist, and how motherly was the voice in which she greeted her. She was clearly no mere paid dependent, but an honored friend. I was introduced, and Mrs. Forrester earnestly begged me to step in and tell her our adventures. I explained, however, the importance of my errand, and promised faithfully to call and report any progress which we might make with the case. As we drove away, I stole a glance back, and I still seemed to see that little group on the step, the two graceful, clinging figures, the half-opened door, the hall light shining through stained glass, the barometer, and the bright stair rods. It was soothing to catch even that passing glimpse of a tranquil English home in the midst of the wild, dark business which had absorbed us. And the more I thought of what had happened, the wilder and darker it grew. I reviewed the whole extraordinary sequence of events as I rattled on through the silent, gas-lit streets. There was the original problem, that at least was pretty clear now. The death of Captain Morstan, the sending of the pearls, the advertisement, the letter. We had had light upon all those events. That had only led us, however, to a deeper and far more tragic mystery. The Indian treasure, the curious plan found among Morstan's baggage, the strange scene at Major Sholto's death, the rediscovery of the treasure immediately followed by the murder of the discoverer, the very singular accompaniments to the crime, the footsteps, the remarkable weapons, the words upon the card, corresponding with those upon Captain Morstan's chart. Here was indeed a labyrinth in which a man less singularly endowed than my fellow lodger might well despair of ever finding the clue. Pinchin Lane was a row of shabby two-storied brick houses in the lower quarter of Lambeth. I had to knock for some time at number 3 before I could make my impression. At last, however, there was the glint of a candle behind the blind, and a face followed out at the upper window. I don't know what I was just reading there, and a face looked out, which makes way more sense, at the upper window. "Go on, you drunken vagabond," said the face. "If you kick up any more row, I'll open the kennels and let out 43 dogs upon you." "If you'll let one out, it's just what I have come for," said I. "Go on," yelled the voice. "So help me gracious, I have a wiper in the bag, and I'll drop it on your head if you don't hook it." "But I want a dog," I cried. "I won't be argued with," shouted Mr. Sherman. "Stand clear, for when I say 3, down goes the wiper." "Mr. Sherlock Holmes," I began, but the words had a most magical effect, for the window instantly slammed down, and within a minute the door was unbarred and opened. Mr. Sherman was a lanky, lean old man with stooping shoulders, a stringy neck, and blue-tinted glasses. "A friend of Mr. Sherlock is always welcome," said he. "Step in, sir. Keep clear of the badger, for he bites." "Ah, naughty, naughty. Would you take a nip at the gentleman?" This to a stoat which thrust its wicked head and red eyes between the bars of its cage. "Don't mind that, sir. It's only a slow worm. It ain't got no fangs, so I gives it to the run of the room. I gives it the run of the room, for it keeps the beetles down. You must not mind my being just a little short with you at first, for I'm guyed at by the children, and there's many a one just comes down this lane to knock me up." "What was it that Mr. Sherlock Holmes wanted, sir?" "He wanted a dog of yours." "Ah, that would be Toby." "Yes, Toby was the name. Toby lives at number 7 on the left there." Or here, if you will. He moved slowly forward with his candle among the queer animal family which he had gathered round him. In the uncertain, shadowy light, I could see dimly that there were glancing, glimmering eyes peeping down at us from every cranny and corner. Even the rafters above our heads were lined by solemn fowls, who lazily shifted their weight from one leg to the other as our voices disturbed their slumbers. Toby proved to be an ugly, long-haired, lop-eared creature, half spaniel and half lurcher, brown and white in color, with a very clumsy, waddling gait. It accepted, after some hesitation, a lump of sugar which the old naturalist handed to me, and, having thus sealed an alliance, it followed me to the cab and made no difficulties about accompanying me. It had just struck 3 on the palace clock when I found myself back once more at Pondicherry Lodge. The ex-prize-fighter Macurdo had, I found, been arrested as an accessory, and both he and Mr. Sholto had been marched off to the station. 2 constables guarded the narrow gate, but they allowed me to pass with the dog on my mentioning the detective's name. Holmes was standing on the doorstep with his hands in his pockets, smoking his pipe. "Ah, you have him there," said he. "Good dog, then. Athelney Jones has gone." Atheny. I think that's a typo. "We have had an immense display of energy since you left. He has arrested not only friend Thaddeus, but the gatekeeper, the housekeeper, and the Indian servant. We have the place to ourselves, but for a sergeant upstairs. Leave the dog here and come up." We tied Toby to the hall table and reascended the stairs. The room was as he had left it, save that a sheet had been draped over the central figure. A weary-looking police sergeant reclined in the corner. "Lend me your bullseye, sergeant," said my companion. "Now tie this bit of card round my neck, so as to hang it in front of me. Thank you. Now, I must kick off my boots and stockings. Just you carry them down with you, Watson. I'm going to do a little climbing. And dip my handkerchief into the creosote. That will do. Now come up into the garret with me for a moment." He clambered up through the hole. Holmes turned his light once more upon the footsteps in the dust. "I wish you particularly to notice these footmarks," he said. "Do you observe anything noteworthy about them?" "They belong," I said, "to a child or a small woman. Apart from their size, though, is there nothing else?" "They appear to me much as other footmarks." "Not at all. Look here. This is the print of a right foot in the dust. Now I make one with my naked foot beside it. What is the chief difference?" "Your toes are all cramped together. The other print has each toe distinctly divided." "Quite so. That is the point. Bear that in mind. Now, would you kindly step over to that flap window and smell the edge of the woodwork? I shall stay here as I have this handkerchief in my hand." I did as he directed and was instantly conscious of a strong terry smell. That is where he put his foot in getting out. If you can trace him, I should think that Toby will have no difficulty. Now run downstairs, loose the dog, and look out for Blondin. By the time that I got out into the grounds, Sherlock Holmes was on the roof, and I could see him like an enormous glowworm crawling very slowly along the ridge. I lost sight of him behind a stack of chimneys, but he presently reappeared and then vanished once more upon the opposite side. When I had made my way round there, I found him seated at one of the corner eaves. That you, Watson? He cried. Yes. This is the place. What is that black thing down there? A water barrel. Top on it? Yes. No sign of a ladder? No. Confound the fellow. It's a most breakneck place. I ought to be able to come down there. I ought to be able to come down where he could climb up. The water pipe feels pretty firm. Here goes, anyhow. There was a scuffling of feet, and the lantern began to come steadily down the side of the wall. Then, with a light spring, he came on to the barrel, and from there to the earth. It was easy enough to follow him, he said, drawing on his stockings and boots. Tiles were loosening the whole way along, and in his hurry he had dropped this. It confirms my diagnosis, as you doctors express it. The object which he held up to me was a small pocket or pouch woven out of colored grasses and with a few tawdry beads strung round it. In shape and size, it was not unlike a cigarette case. Inside were half a dozen spines of dark wood, sharp at one end and rounded at the other, like that which had struck Bartholomew Sholto. They are hellish things, said he. Look out that you don't prick yourself. Ah, yes, I think I failed to mention in the recap that the thorn he found in Bartholomew's head was most likely poisoned with strychnine. Now, finding my place again after that brief interlude will be interesting. In shape and size, it was not like, nope. They're hellish things, said he. Look out that you don't prick yourself. I'm delighted to have them, for the chances are that they are all he has. There is the less fear of you or me finding one in our skin before long. I would sooner face a martini bullet myself. Are you game for a 6-mile trudge, Watson? Certainly, I answered him. Your leg will stand it? Oh, yes. Here you are, doggy. Good old Toby. Smell it, Toby, smell it. He pushed the creosote handkerchief under the dog's nose, while the creature stood with its fluffy legs separated, and with a most comical cock to its head, like a connoisseur sniffing the bouquet of a famous vintage. Holmes then threw the handkerchief to a distance, fastened a stout cord to the mongrel's collar, and led him to the foot of the water barrel. The creature instantly broke into a succession of high, tremulous yelps, and with his nose on the ground and his tail in the air, pattered off upon the trail at a pace which strained his leash and kept us at the top of our speed. The east had been gradually whitening, and we could now see some distance in the cold gray light. The square, massive house, with its black, empty windows and high, bare walls, towered up, sad and forlorn, behind us. Our course led right across the grounds, in and out among the trenches and pits with which they were scarred and intersected. The whole place, with its scattered dirt heaps and ill-grown shrubs, had a blighted, ill-omened look which harmonized with the black tragedy which hung over it. On reaching the boundary wall, Toby ran along, whining eagerly, underneath its shadow, and stopped finally in a corner screened by a young beech, like beechwood, a tree. Where the two walls joined, several bricks had been loosened, and the crevices left were worn down and rounded up the lower side, as though they had frequently been used as a ladder. I apologize for the laughter in the background. Holmes clambered up, and taking the dog from me, he dropped it over upon the other side. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. There's the print of Woodenleg's hand, he remarked as I mounted up beside him. You see the slight smudge of blood upon the white plaster. With a lucky thing it is, what a lucky thing it is that we have had no very heavy rain since yesterday. The scent will lie upon the road in spite of their 8 and 20 hours start. I confess that I had my doubts myself when I reflected upon the great traffic which had passed along the London road in the interval. My fears were soon appeased, however. Toby never hesitated or swerved, but waddled on in his peculiar rolling fashion. Clearly, the pungent smell of the creosote rose high above all other contending scents. Do not imagine, said Holmes, that I depend for my success in this case upon the mere chance of one of these fellows having put his foot in the chemical. I have knowledge now which would enable me to trace them in many different ways. This, however, is the readiest, and since fortune has put it into our hands, I should be culpable if I neglected it. It has, however, prevented the case from becoming the pretty little intellectual problem which it at one time promised to be. There might have been some credit to be gained out of it, but for this too palpable clue. There is credit and to spare, said I. I assure you, Holmes, that I marvel at the means by which you obtain your results in this case, even more than I did in the Jefferson Hope murder. The thing seems to me to be deeper and more inexplicable. How, for example, could you describe with such confidence the wooden-legged man? Pshaw, my dear boy! It was simplicity itself. I don't wish to be theatrical. It is all patent and above board. Two officers who are in command of a convict guard learn an important secret as to buried treasure. A map is drawn for them by an Englishman named Jonathan Small. You remember that we saw the name upon the chart in Captain Marston's possession. He had signed it in behalf of himself and his associates, the sign of the four, as he somewhat dramatically called it. Aided by this chart, the officers, or one of them, gets the treasure and brings it to England, leaving, we will suppose, some condition under which he received it unfulfilled. Now then, why did not Jonathan Small get the treasure himself? The answer is obvious. The chart is dated at a time when Morstan was brought into close association with convicts. Jonathan Small did not get the treasure because he and his associates were themselves convicts and could not get away. But that is mere speculation, said I. It is more than that. It is the only hypothesis which covers the facts. Let us see how it fits in with the sequel. Major Sholto remains at peace for some years, happy in the possession of his treasure. Then he receives a letter from India which gives him a great fright. What was that? A letter to say that the men whom he had wronged had been set free, or had escaped. That is much more likely, for he would have known what their term of imprisonment was. It would not have been a surprise to him. What does he do then? He guards himself against a wooden-legged man, a white man, mark you, for he mistakes a white tradesman for him and actually fires a pistol at him. Now, only one white man's name is on the chart. The others are Hindus or Mohammedans. There is no other white man. Therefore, we may say with confidence that the wooden-legged man is identical with Jonathan Small. Does the reasoning strike you as being faulty? No, it is clear and concise. Well now, let us put ourselves in the place of Jonathan Small. Let us look at it from his point of view. He comes to England with the double idea of regaining what he would consider to be his rights and of having his revenge upon the man who had wronged him. He found out where Sholto lived, and very possibly he established communications with someone inside the house. There is this butler, Lal Rao, whom we have not seen. Mrs. Burnstone gives him far from a good character. Small could not find out, however, where the treasure was hid, for no one ever knew, save the major and one faithful servant who had died. Suddenly, Small learns that the major is on his deathbed. In a frenzy lest the secret of the treasure die with him, he runs the gauntlet of the guards, makes his way to the dying man's window, and is only deterred from entering by the presence of his two sons. Mad with hate, however, against the dead man, he enters the room that night, searches his private papers in the hope of discovering some memorandum relating to the treasure, and finally leaves a memento of his visit in the short inscription upon the card. He had doubtless planned beforehand that should he slay the major, he would leave some such record upon the body as a sign that it was not a common murder, but, from the point of view of the four associates, something in the nature of an act of justice. Whimsical and bizarre conceits of this kind are common enough in the annals of crime, and usually afford valuable indications as to the criminal. Do you follow all this? Very clearly. Now, what could Jonathan Small do? He could only continue to keep a secret watch upon the efforts made to find the treasure. Possibly he leaves England and only comes back at intervals. Then comes the discovery of the garret, and he is instantly informed of it. We again trace the presence of some confederate in the household. Jonathan, with his wooden leg, is utterly unable to reach the lofty room of Bartholomew Sholto. He takes with him, however, a rather curious associate, who gets over this difficulty, but dips his naked foot into creosote, whence comes Toby, and a 6-mile limp for a half-pay officer with a damaged tendo Achilles. But it was the associate, and not Jonathan, who committed the crime. Quite so, and rather to Jonathan's disgust, to judge by the way he stamped about when he got into the room. He bore no grudge against Bartholomew Sholto, and would have preferred if he could have been simply bound and gagged. He did not wish to put his head in a halter. There was no hope for it, however. The savage instincts of his companion had broken out. Lost my place. And the poison had done its work. So Jonathan Small left his record, lowered the treasure box to the ground, and followed it himself. That was the train of events as far as I can decipher them. Of course, as to his personal appearance, he must be middle-aged and must be sunburned after serving his time in such an oven as the Andamans. His height is readily calculated from the length of his stride, and we know that he was bearded. His hairiness was the one point which impressed itself upon Thaddeus Sholto when he saw him at the window. I don't know that there is anything else. The associate? Well, there is no great mystery in that. But you will know all about it soon enough. How sweet the morning air is. See how that one little cloud floats like a pink feather from some gigantic flamingo? Now the red rim of the sun pushes itself over the London cloud bank. It shines on a good many folk, but on none, I dare bet, who are in a stranger errand than you and I. How small we feel with our petty ambitions and strivings in the presence of the great elemental forces of nature. Are you well up in your John Paul? Jean Paul, I believe, is the better pronunciation of that. Fairly so. I worked back to him through Carlisle. That was like following the brook to the parent lake. He makes one curious but profound remark. It is that the chief proof of man's real greatness lies in his perception of his own smallness. It argues, you see, a power of comparison and of appreciation, which is in itself a proof of nobility. There is much food for thought in Richter. You have not a pistol, have you? I have my stick. It is just possible that we may need something of the sort if we get to their lair. Jonathan, I shall leave to you, but if the other turns nasty, I shall shoot him dead. He took out his revolver as he spoke, and having loaded 2 of the chambers, he put it back into the right-hand pocket of his jacket. We had during this time been following the guidance of Toby down the half-rural, villa-lined roads which led to the metropolis. Now, however, we were beginning to come among continuous streets where laborers and dockmen were already astir, and slatternly women were taking down shutters and brushing doorsteps. At the square-topped corner, public houses business was just beginning, and rough-looking men were emerging, rubbing their sleeves across their beards after their morning wet. Strange dogs sauntered up and stared wonderingly at us as we passed, but our inimitable Toby looked neither to the right nor to the left, but trotted onwards with his nose to the ground and an occasional eager whine which spoke of a hot scent. We had traversed Streatham, Brixton, Camberwell, and now found ourselves in Kennington Lane, having borne away through the side streets to the east of the Oval. The men whom we pursued seemed to have taken a curiously zigzag road, with the idea, probably, of escaping observation. They had never kept to the main road if a parallel side street would serve their turn. At the foot of Kennington Lane, they had edged away to the left through Bond Street and Miles Street. Where the latter street turns into Knight's Place, Toby ceased to advance, but began to turn backwards and forwards with one ear cocked and the other drooping. The very picture of canine indecision. Then he waddled round in circles, looking up to us from time to time, as if to ask for sympathy in his embarrassment. "What the deuce is the matter with the dog?" growled Holmes. "They surely would not take a cab or go off in a balloon." "Perhaps they stood here for some time," I suggested. "Ah, it's all right. He's off again," said my companion in a tone of relief. He was indeed off, for after sniffing round again, he suddenly made up his mind and darted away with an energy and determination such as he had not yet shown. The scent appeared to be much hotter than before, for he had not even to put his nose on the ground, but tugged at his leash and tried to break into a run. I could see by the gleam in Holmes's eyes that he thought we were nearing the end of our journey. Sorry, it doesn't say could, it says cold. But that's just a typo. Our course now ran down 9 elms until we came to Broderick and Nelson's large timber yard, just past the White Eagle Tavern. Here the fog, frantic with excitement, turned down. Oh my god, I can't freaking read today. Here the dog, frantic with excitement, turned down through the side gate into the enclosure, where the sawyers were already at work. On the dog raced through sawdust and shavings down an alley, round a passage, between 2 wood piles, and finally, with a triumphant yelp, sprang upon a large barrel which still stood upon the hand trolley on which it had been brought. With lolling tongue and blinking eyes, Toby stood upon the cask, looking from one to the other of us for some sign of appreciation. The staves of the barrel and the wheels of the trolley were smeared with dark liquid, and the whole air was heavy with the smell of creosote. Sherlock Holmes and I looked blankly at each other and then burst simultaneously into an uncontrollable fit of laughter. I don't think they found what they needed to find, guys. No, I did not yell at my brother, by the way. Hello and hail, Sam. How goes it? And yes, I do agree with this, Dom. Goddamn brothers. None of this team cripple crap. Get that out of here, traitor. Yeah, and this is the comment I was talking about to answer. Neither. Not both. Neither. What's up, Clinton? How goes it? How's your Friday? Yes, I am thinking Toby led them into the wrong place. He smelled the creosote, so he led them to bins of creosote. I'm sure they'll figure it out, though. I'm gonna flip this around because it's been driving me crazy. This hat needs to be tighter. Oh well. You're gonna abandon me, Clinton? That's not very nice, my friend. How dare you? You're such a tease. No, enjoy your time with your friends. I do not begrudge you this, as I'm sure you are already aware. Thanks for saying hi, though. swinging by for a little bit. What do you guys think? Do you think that the culprits are going to be there? I don't, as I've stated. It's like once every 8 months, someone invites me out. I hear ya. I don't even get that. My brother and I just hang out all the time. Sometimes outside of the house. Rarely, but sometimes. Generally, what we do is we go to the Alamo Draft House, which is a movie theater that is a way better experience than any AMC or Regal or whatever standard. All they want to do is become Alamo movie theaters, because Alamo did it first. Which, if you don't know what I mean, the Alamo serves you basically dinner. They have tables in their theaters, and they have these like little cards where you order from the menu, and you like put up the card and you press a button for the light to turn on, and then the servers come and they take your order, write down your order, and then they'll deliver it during the movie. They don't disrupt it. Their backs probably kill them throughout the day because they're very, like, they crouch down and run type of thing to give you your food and take your orders and whatnot. So, but what they also do, which is really cool, is you can just raise a card, so like an order card, and just like write down that if someone nearby is just being completely obnoxious, like playing on their phone, being really loud, things like that, Alamo will give them one warning before they're kicked out. So it's nice to be able to just immerse yourself in the movie without disruption. And so now, like, you'll see AMCs where it's a dine-in AMC and stuff like that, but it's worse food for similar cost, and it's less of a nice experience. And people will still be rude and annoying in the theater, so the Alamo's better. I really hate when movies like, I don't know, freaking Frankenstein, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein with Netflix, is only at places like The Landmark out here, which is downtown Denver, basically. I don't want to go to freaking downtown Denver. It's the only theater showing the Frankenstein film, and I'm very annoyed. So there's that. Yeah, Alamo Drafthouse has ruined me for other theaters. Going back to my questions in the DM I sent you, if you were told a family member hit his head on a treasure chest from an argument and had a heart attack, and they hid his body because they didn't want to be blamed, would you believe them? Are you talking about if you were told a family member hit his head on a treasure chest from an argument and had a heart attack, and they hid his body because they didn't want to be blamed? So you're talking about Miss Morstan hearing the story about her father. I don't know. I remember you asking that question, and I forgot to get back to it and fully read what you were saying, Dom. So my apologies. I honestly don't know if I would believe that. I think technically when I was reading it, I don't think I believed it. But that's just my suspicious nature, especially because it's a mystery. So I'm trying to unravel the mystery before Holmes explains to us what actually happened. See if I could guess it beforehand. So I don't know. I feel like, no, I would not believe that, though, especially when treasure is involved. But they are being open about the treasure, which could also be a tactic. This is the type of stuff that goes through my brain. It's just like, okay, they're being honest about this treasure. And they sent me the pearls like once a year or whatever it was. So that was nice of them, but that also could just be shady by like you're sending it out of guilt and also to protect yourself. So question everything, my friends. You know of the Alamo Draft House, good place. Been forever since I've been that far north to go. Yeah, there's like 4 of them out here in Denver, which I'm very lucky for. The newest one is the one in Westminster, so that's the one that we go to, because it's the nicest one and it has what they call the big show. IMAX is overrated, just so everyone's aware. Most IMAX isn't even real IMAX. Like if you're not sitting in basically like stands, like think of episode 2 Star Wars, like where everyone's looking down upon um Palpatine. If it doesn't look like that, then it's not real IMAX, and most ones that say that they're IMAX are not real IMAX. And even the real ones are overrated as all hell. I went to see Avatar, the first Avatar, when I was stationed in California in a real IMAX. And I was just like, this is just a movie in a theater. It was beautiful. Like I loved how beautiful that movie was. The story does not hold up after you watch it again. Because I was gushing over it and I wanted my brother to watch it, but he didn't want to watch it because like that type of stuff like is hit or miss with him, because like he's in a wheelchair. The guy was in a wheelchair for Avatar. You can understand where like he might not like it, which he did not. I don't even know if he watched it. Either way, upon rewatching it, it's not the greatest. I'm assuming you mean the theater. You feel my pain. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this came in when I was talking about the response to your question of not believing and being skeptical of everything. I might as well be Mulder. If you don't know what I mean by that, that's your fault. And of course, Sam would know that. I think Jay can handle it, but I don't think he watches, so I think my secret is safe. Rita watched the first Avatar once, had never revisited. Yeah. So let's see. Sam is my knowledge guru. IMAX was designed for educational and scientific documentaries, not popular movies. First film I saw in one was Antarctica, filmed from a helicopter. That probably would have been really cool. I could see that, and that really does make sense. Because that would be immersive. I mean, and it was kind of immersive from what I vaguely recall, because it was 2012, wasn't it, when Avatar was it Okay, when did this come out? 2009. Okay, so I stand corrected. Was it not Avatar that I saw in theaters then? What was it that I saw? Because it wouldn't have been, I was in boot camp in 09, and then I was stationed in 29 Palms. There's no IMAX out there. There's barely palm trees out there. I wonder what it was that I saw then. I mean, hell, it could have been like put back in theaters, and that's when I saw it in theaters, I guess. I stand corrected. Terrible memory. Fails me again. This is what happens. It was the same way too. Enjoyed when I saw first saw it, but when I saw it again, didn't have the same feeling, and I never saw the other ones. Yeah, I didn't care to see the second one. The third one's coming out soon, right? God, you're such a baby. You know, what, like 4 years younger than me or some shit? 3. I'm gonna get more tea because my voice is cracking. I shall be back momentarily. Chat amongst yourselves, chat. I'd be back. Clearly. You're not retarded. You can see me, I guess. And I'm not retarded. I unmuted myself. Yay! Success for me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not old. I am. Yeah, when I said 4, it seemed like it was a little bit off. Might be 3.5 years. Did I show you guys my little... I filled this up a little bit too far. It's a kitty cat. It's the, what's it called? What are they called? The container that holds the tea, the loose leaf tea. You would know, Sam. You would know. Which, actually, you saying this reminds me that I need to send you something. Don't let me forget. Later, after the stream, I'll send you a reel. I'm sure you'll laugh at it. Basically everything in Denver and around Denver in the suburbs. All of the cities around Denver are basically Denver, but it takes a minimum of 30 minutes to get anywhere and everywhere, depending on the time of day. Yeah, I mean 30 minutes, maybe. Let me see. Mile High Stadium, which is not what it's called now, but no one calls it any differently. Mile High. Oh, Empower Field. It's 12 miles away from me. Currently, it would be 37 minutes to get to. John Bolton indicted. Now that I have my phone unlocked, I am getting rid of my notifications. Don't judge me. Another crazy double play. Playoff baseball, man. Bases loaded situation that you get yourself out of. All right. Oh, what's up, Darren Muth? Thank you for the $2. Hello on Rumble. Welcome. It's Friday. I remember you stream on Fridays. Hello. Remember passing it with you. Infuser. A tea infuser. Thank you. You would know, Clinton. Thank you. Passing it with you when I was there during... Yeah. I recall somewhat that too. I mean, I pass by it frequently enough when I leave the house. You're too slow, Sam. Yeah, I know the Giants are in town. We'll see how that goes. I don't think you're going to take this one, Dom. Who knows, though? Denver's been kind of hit or miss. Freaking Bo Nix, man. Driving me crazy. Oh, it's a diffuser. Sorry, Sam. I stand corrected. And so does Clinton, I guess. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. All right. Let's move on to the next chapter, shall we? Now that I've gabbed away for like 20 minutes. What am I doing? Layers. Here we go. Chapter 8. The Baker Street Irregulars. What now? I asked. Toby has lost his character for infallibility. He acted according to his lights, said Holmes, lifting him down from the barrel and walking him out of the timber yard. If you consider how much creosote is carted about London in one day, it is no great wonder that our trail should have been crossed. It is much used now, especially for the seasoning of wood. Poor Toby is not to blame. We must get on the main scent again, I suppose. Yes, and fortunately we have no distance to go. Evidently, what puzzled the dog at the corner of Knight's Place was that there were two different trails running in opposite directions. We took the wrong one. It only remains to follow the other. There was no difficulty about this. On leading Toby to the place where he had committed his fault, he cast about in a wide circle and finally dashed off in a fresh direction. We must take care that he does not bring us to the place where the creosote barrel came from, I observed. I had thought of that, but you notice that he keeps on the pavement, whereas the barrel passed down the roadway. No, we are on the true scent now. It tended down towards the riverside, running through Belmont Place and Prince's Street. At the end of Broad Street, it ran right down to the water's edge, where there was a small wooden wharf. Toby led us to the very edge of this, and there stood whining, looking out on the dark current beyond. We're out of luck, said Holmes. They have taken to a boat here. Several small punts and skiffs were lying about in the water and on the edge of the wharf. We took Toby round to each in turn, but though he sniffed earnestly, he made no sign. Close to the rude landing stage was a small brick house with a wooden placard slung out through the second window. Mordecai Smith was printed across it in large letters, and underneath, boats to hire by the hour or day. A second inscription above the door informed us that a steam launch was kept, a statement which was confirmed by a great pile of coke upon the jetty. Sherlock Holmes looked slowly round, and his face assumed an ominous expression. This looks bad, said he. These fellows are sharper than I expected. They seem to have covered their tracks. There has, I fear, been preconcerted management here. He was approaching the door of the house when it opened, and a little curly-headed lad of 6 came running out, followed by a stoutish, red-faced woman with a large sponge in her hand. You come back and be washed, Jack, she shouted. Come back, you young imp. For if your father comes home and finds you like that, he'll let us hear of it. Dear little chap, said Holmes strategically. What a rosy-cheeked young rascal. Now, Jack, is there anything you would like? The youth pondered for a moment. I'd like a shillin', said he. Nothing you would like better? I'd like 2 shillin' better, the prodigy answered after some thought. Here you are, then. Catch. A fine child, Mrs. Smith. Lord bless you, sir, he is that, and forward. He gets almost too much for me to manage, especially when my man is away days at a time. Away, is he? Said Holmes in a disappointed voice. I am sorry for that, for I wanted to speak to Mr. Smith. He's been away since yesterday morning, sir, and truth to tell, I'm beginning to feel frightened about him. But if it was about a boat, sir, maybe I could serve as well. I wanted to hire his steam launch. Why, bless you, sir, it is in the steam launch that he is gone. That's what puzzles me, for I know there ain't more coals in her than would take her to about Woolwich and back. If he'd been away in the barge, I'd have thought nothing, for many a time a job has taken him as far as Gravesend, and then if there was much doing there, he might have stayed over. But what good is a steam launch without coals? He might have bought some at a wharf down the river. He might, sir, but it weren't his way. Many a time I've heard him call out at the prices they charge for a few odd bags. Besides, I don't like that wooden-legged man with his ugly face and outlandish talk. What did he want always knocking about here for? A wooden-legged man? Said Holmes with a bland surprise. Yes, sir, a brown, monkey-faced chap that's called more'n once for my old man. It was him that roused him up yesternight. And what's more, my man knew he was coming, for he had steam up in the launch. I tell you straight, sir, I don't feel easy in my mind about it. But, my dear Mrs. Smith, said Holmes, shrugging his shoulders, you are frightening yourself about nothing. How could you possibly tell that it was the wooden-legged man who came in the night? I don't quite understand how you can be so sure. His voice, sir. I knew his voice, which is kind of thick and foggy. He tapped at the window. About 3 it would be. Show a leg, matey, says he. Time to turn out guard. My old man woke up Jim, that's my eldest, and away they went without so much as a word to me. I could hear the wooden leg clackin' on the stones. And was this wooden leg man alone? Couldn't say, I'm sure. I didn't hear no one else. I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, for I wanted a steam launch, and I've heard good reports of the. Let me see, what is her name? The Aurora, sir. Ah, she's not that old green launch with a yellow line, very broad in the beam. No, indeed, she's as trim a little thing as any on the river. She's been fresh painted, black with 2 red streaks. Thanks. I hope that you will hear soon from Mr. Smith. I'm going down the river, and if I should see anything of the Aurora, I shall let him know that you are uneasy. A black funnel, you say? No, sir, black with a white band. Ah, of course. It was the sides which were black. Good morning, Mrs. Smith. There's a boatman here with a wherry, Watson. We shall take it and cross the river. The main thing with people of that sort, said Holmes, as we sat in the sheets of the wherry, is never to let them think that their information can be of the slightest importance to you. If you do, they will instantly shut up like an oyster. If you listen to them under protest, as it were, you are very likely to get what you want. Our course now seems pretty clear, said I. What would you do, then? I would engage a launch and go down the river on the track of the Aurora. My dear fellow, it would be a colossal task. She may have thought at any wharf on either side of the stream between here... Thought? She may have touched at any wharf on either side of the stream between here and Greenwich. Below the bridge, there is a perfect labyrinth of landing places for miles. It would take you days and days to exhaust them, if you set about it alone. Employ the police, then? No. I shall probably call Athelney Jones in at the last moment. He's not a bad fellow, and I should not like to do anything which would injure him professionally, but I have a fancy for working it out myself now that we have gone so far. Could we advertise, then, asking for information from Warfingers? Warfingers. Worse and worse. Our men would know that the chase was hot at their heels, and they would be off out of the country. As it is, they are likely enough to leave, but as long as they think they are perfectly safe, they will be in no hurry. Jones's energy will be of use to us there, for his view of the case is sure to push itself into the daily press, and the runaways will think that every one is off on the wrong scent. What are we to do, then? I asked, as we landed near Millbank Penitentiary. Take this hansom, drive home, have some breakfast, and get an hour's sleep. It is quite on the cards that we may be afoot tonight again. Stop at a telegraph office, cabby. We will keep Toby, for he may be of use to us yet. We pulled up at the great Peter Street post office, and Holmes dispatched his wire. Whom do you think that is to? He asked as he resumed our journey. I am sure I don't know. You remember the Baker Street division of the detective police force whom I employed in the Jefferson Hope case? Well, said I, laughing, this is just the case where they might be invaluable. If they fail, I have other resources, but I shall try them first. That wire was to my dirty little Lieutenant Wiggins, and I expect that he and his gang will be with us before we have finished our breakfast. It was between 8 and 9 o'clock now, and I was conscious of a strong reaction after the successive excitements of the night. I was limp and weary, befogged in mind and fatigued in body. I had not the professional enthusiasm which carried my companion on, nor could I look at the matter as a mere abstract intellectual problem. As far as the death of Bartholomew Sholto went, I had heard little good of him and could feel no intense antipathy to his murderers. The treasure, however, was a different matter. That, or part of it, belonged rightfully to Miss Morstan. While there was a chance of recovering it, I was ready to devote my life to the one object. True, if I found it, it would probably put her forever beyond my reach. Yet it would be a petty and selfish love which would be influenced by such a thought as that. If Holmes could work to find the criminals, I had a tenfold stronger reason to urge me on to find the treasure. A bath at Baker Street and a complete change freshened me up wonderfully. When I came down to our room, I found the breakfast laid and Holmes pouring out the coffee. Here it is, said he, laughing and pointing to an open newspaper. The energetic Jones and the ubiquitous reporter have fixed it up between them, but you have had enough of the case. Better have your ham and eggs first. I took the paper from him and read the short notice, which was headed Mysterious Business at Upper Norwood. Above 12 o'clock last night, said the Standard, Mr. Bartholomew Sholto of Pondicherry Lodge, Upper Norwood, was found dead in his room under circumstances which point to foul play. As far as we can learn, no actual traces of violence were found upon Mr. Sholto's person, but a valuable collection of Indian gems which the deceased gentleman had inherited from his father has been carried off. The discovery was first made by Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, who had called at the house with Mr. Thaddeus Sholto, brother of the deceased. By a singular piece of good fortune, Mr. Athelney Jones, the well-known member of the detective police force, happened to be at the Norwood police station and was on the ground within half an hour of the first alarm. His trained and experienced faculties were at once directed towards the detention of the criminals, with the gratifying result that the brother, Thaddeus Sholto, has already been arrested, together with a housekeeper, Mrs. Burnstone, an Indian butler named Lal Rao, and a porter, or gatekeeper, named McMurdo. It is quite certain that the thief, or thieves, were well acquainted with the house, for Mr. Jones's well-known technical knowledge and his powers of minute observation have enabled him to prove conclusively that the miscreants could not have entered by the door or by the window, but must have made their way across the roof of the building, and so through a trap door into a room which communicated with that in which the body was found. This fact, which has been very clearly made out, proves conclusively that it was no mere haphazard burglary. The prompt and energetic action of the officers of the law shows the great advantage of the presence on such occasions of a single vigorous and masterful mind. We cannot but think that it supplies an argument to those who would wish to see our detectives more decentralized, and so brought into closer and more effective touch with the cases which it is their duty to investigate. "Isn't it gorgeous?" said Holmes, grinning over his coffee cup. "What do you think of it?" "I think that we have had a close shave ourselves of being arrested for the crime." "So do I. I wouldn't answer for our safety now, if I should happen to have another of his attacks of energy." At this moment there was a loud ring at the bell, and I could hear Mrs. Hudson, our landlady, raising her voice in a wail of expostulation and dismay. "By heaven, Holmes," I said, half rising, "I believe that they really are after us." "No, it's not quite so bad as that. It's the unofficial force, the Baker Street irregulars." As he spoke, there came a swift pattering of naked feet upon the stairs, a clatter of high voices, and in rushed a dozen dirty and ragged little street Arabs. There was some show of discipline among them, despite their tumultuous entry, for they instantly drew up in line and stood facing us with expectant faces. One of their number, taller and older than the others, stood forward with an air of lounging superiority, which was very funny in such a disreputable little scarecrow. "Got your message, sir," said he, and brought 'em on sharp. "3 bob and a tanner for tickets." "Here you are," said Holmes, producing some silver. "In future they can report to you, Wiggins, and you to me. I cannot have the house invaded in this way. However, it is just as well that you should all hear the instructions. I want to find the whereabouts of a steam launch called the Aurora, owner Mordecai Smith, black with 2 red streaks, funnel black with a white band. She's down the river somewhere. I want one boy to be at Mordecai Smith's landing stage opposite Millbank to say if the boat comes back. You must divide it out among yourselves, and do both banks thoroughly. Let me know the moment you have news. Is that all clear?" "Yes, governor," said Wiggins. The old scale of pay and a guinea to the boy who finds the boat. Here's a day in advance. Now off you go. He handed them a shilling each, and away they buzzed down the stairs, and I saw them a moment later streaming down the street. If the launch is above water, they will find her, said Holmes as he rose from the table and lit his pipe. They can go everywhere, see everything, overhear everyone. I expect to hear before evening that they have spotted her. In the meanwhile, we can do nothing but await results. We cannot pick up the broken trail until we find either the Aurora or Mr. Mordecai Smith. Toby could eat these scraps, I dare say. Are you going to bed, Holmes? No, I'm not tired. I have a curious constitution. I never remember feeling tired by work, though idleness exhausts me completely. I'm going to smoke and to think over this queer business to which my fair client has introduced us. If ever man had an easy task, this of ours ought to be. Wooden-legged men are not so common, but the other man must, I should think, be absolutely unique. That other man again. I have no wish to make a mystery of him, to you anyway, but you must have formed your own opinion. Now, do consider the data. Diminutive footmarks, toes never fettered by boots, naked feet, stone-headed wooden malice, great agility, small poisoned darts. What do you make of all this? A savage, I explained. Perhaps one of those Indians who were the associates of Jonathan Small. Hardly that, said he. When first I saw signs of strange weapons, I was inclined to think so. But the remarkable character of the footmarks caused me to reconsider my views. Some of the inhabitants of the Indian peninsula are small men, but none could have left such marks as that. The Hindu proper has long and thin feet. The sandal-wearing Mohammedan has the great toe well separated from the others, because the thong is commonly passed between. These little darts, too, could only be shot in one way. They are from a blowpipe. Now then, where are we to find our savage? South American, I hazarded. He stretched his hand up and took down a bulky volume from the shelf. This is the first volume of a gazetteer, which is now being published. Like, it's Gazette, E-R, Gazetter. I'm going to say Gazetter. It may be looked upon as the very latest authority. What have we here? Andaman Islands, situated 340 miles to the north of Sumatra in the Bay of Bengal. What's all this? Moist climate, coral reefs, sharks, Port Blair, convict barracks, Rutland Island, cottonwoods. Here we are. The Aborigines of the Andaman Islands may perhaps claim the distinction of being the smallest race upon this earth. Though some anthropologists prefer the Bushmen of Africa, the Digger Indians of America, I say again, the Digger Indians of America, and the Terra del Fuegians. The average height is rather below 4 feet, although many full-grown adults may be found who are very much smaller than this. They are a fierce, morose, and intractable people, though capable of forming most devoted friendships when their confidence has once been gained. Mark that, Watson. Now then, listen to this. They are naturally hideous, having large, misshapen heads, small, fierce eyes, and distorted features. Their feet and hands, however, are remarkably small. So intractable and fierce are they that all the efforts of the British official have failed to win them over in any degree. They have always been a terror to shipwrecked crews, braining the survivors with their stone-headed clubs, or shooting them with their poisoned arrows. These massacres are invariably concluded by a cannibal feast. Nice, amiable people, Watson. If this fellow had been left to his own unaided devices, this affair might have taken an even more ghastly turn. I fancy that, even as it is, Jonathan Small would give a good deal not to have employed him. But how came he to have so singular a companion? Ah, that is more than I can tell. Since, however, we had already determined that Small had come from the Andamans, it is not so very wonderful that this islander should be with him. No doubt we shall know all about it in time. Look here, Watson. You look regularly done. Lie down there on the sofa and see if I can put you to sleep. He took up his violin from the corner, and as I stretched myself out, he began to play some low, dreamy, melodious air. His own, no doubt, for he had a remarkable gift for improvisation. I have a vague remembrance of his gaunt limbs, his earnest face, and the rise and fall of his bow. Then I seemed to be floated peacefully away upon a soft sea of sound until I found myself in dreamland with the sweet face of Mary Morstan looking down upon me. Holmes seems kind of based. Just saying. So, gazetteer. That sounds stupid. Like hella stupid. And it's spelled stupid too, by the way. It's a stupid word. I don't like it. Not that I don't trust you, Sam. But I want to hear it myself. You're right. But it's still stupid. A newspaper, a gazette. A geographical dictionary, a book giving the names and descriptions, etc., of many places. A writer of news or an officer appointed to publish news by authority. I don't know why I read it like that, but you're welcome. Duly noted. You are correct, Sam. Gazetteer. That's stupid. God, that sounds so retarded. So going back, they said the other dude did the killing, not Jonathan Small, right? Yes. So that dude was inside. And is the one that dropped the rope down. So when he got in there, he killed the guy. And it's because of his savage ways. Yeah. Sorry. So that's all there is to that. And then like he was the one that dropped the rope back down for the dude to climb back down. And then he left via the roof as well. I may need to go back and reread this. Just like, what was it? A Study in Scarlet. I'm like, it's not the Scarlet Letter. But I really wanted to say it was a Scarlet Letter. So far, do you guys like this one better? Or do you like A Study in Scarlet better? We're over halfway through it now. So I don't know which one I like better so far. I kind of lean toward the A Study in Scarlet, honestly, because I kind of like how it went into the past. Even though I didn't like that at first, once the entire book was finished, I thought it was a nice touch, like the way it was done. So would you say Holmes knows who this other person is already and he's not going to say yet? I don't think we've met him as the audience. Unless... No, that seems silly. I was going to say unless it's the... Oh, wait, I just had a thought. Who showed Thaddeus? Showed them to Thaddeus. That was like Thaddeus's servant dude. Maybe it's him. because he was like a foreigner, but I can't remember if they described how he looked. Or if it was just like with a certain kind of accent. Dude, it's not even food time. Nice try. Remains to be seen for me. Need to see how this ends. Yeah, I mean, I just meant so far because essentially where we're at when we were reading the first one is kind of like it's when basically part 2 started. So like the traveling back in time. So if you can think back to that when reading the first book or listening, whatever, without having known the end. I mean, even actually, so I wasn't even doing it that way. If I do it that way, I actually lean towards this, I think. Interesting. So we'll see if it changes by the end of the book. I'm going to continue reading, and then it'll be the last chapter for the day. I do declare. So don't hate me, but I just... Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's an even split anyway, so... Yeah. Let's carry on. Chapter 9. A Break in the Chain. It was late in the afternoon before I woke, strengthened and refreshed. Sherlock Holmes still sat exactly as I had left him, save that he had laid aside his violin and was deep in a book. He looked across at me as I stirred, and I noticed that his face was dark and troubled. "You have slept soundly," he said. "I feared that our walk would wake you." Talk. I feared that our talk would wake you. Sometimes I feel like I'm becoming dyslexic. I'm going to blame Dermy. "I heard nothing," I answered. "Have you had fresh news, then?" "Unfortunately, no. I confess that I am surprised and disappointed. I expected something definite by this time. Wiggins has just been up to report. He says that no trace can be found of the launch. It is a provoking check, for every hour is of importance. Can I do anything? I'm perfectly fresh now, and quite ready for another night's outing." "No, we can do nothing. We can only wait. If we go ourselves, the message might come in our absence and delay be caused. You can do what you will, but I must remain on guard." "Then I shall run over to Camberwell and call upon Mrs. Cecil Forrester. She asked me to yesterday." "On Mrs. Cecil Forrester?" asked Holmes, with a twinkle of a smile in his eyes. "Well, of course, Miss Morstan, too. They were anxious to hear what happened." "I would not tell them too much," said Holmes. "Women are never to be entirely trusted. Not the best of them." Based. I did not pause to argue over this atrocious sentiment. "I shall be back in an hour or two," I remarked. "All right, good luck. But I say, if you are crossing the river, you may as well return Toby, for I don't think it is at all likely that we shall have any use for him now." I took our mongrel accordingly, and left him, together with a half-sovereign, at the old naturalist's in Pinchin Lane. At Camberwell, I found Miss Morstan, a little weary after her night's adventures, but very eager to hear the news. Mrs. Forrester, too, was full of curiosity. I told them all that we had done, suppressing, however, the more dreadful parts of the tragedy. Thus, although I spoke of Mr. Sholto's death, I said nothing of the exact manner and method of it. With all my omissions, however, there was enough to startle and amaze them. "It is a romance!" cried Mrs. Forrester. "An injured lady, 500,000 in treasure, a black cannibal, and a wooden-legged ruffian. They take the place of the conventional dragon or wicked earl." "And 2 knight-errants to the rescue," added Miss Morstan, with a bright glance at me. "Why, Mary, your fortune depends upon the issue of this search. I don't think that you are nearly excited enough. Just imagine what it must be to be so rich, and to have the world at your feet." It sent a little thrill of joy to my heart to notice that she showed no sign of elation at the prospect. On the contrary, she gave a toss of her proud head as though the matter were one in which she took small interest. "It is for Mr. Thaddeus Sholto that I am anxious," she said. "Nothing else is of any consequence, but I think that he has behaved most kindly and honorably throughout. It is our duty to clear him of this dreadful and unfounded charge." It was evening before I left Camberwell, and quite dark by the time I reached home. My companion's book and pipe lay by his chair, but he had disappeared. I looked about in the hope of seeing a note, but there was none. "I suppose that Mr. Sherlock Holmes has gone out," I said to Mrs. Hudson as she came up to lower the blinds. "No, sir. He has gone to his room, sir. Do you know, sir," sinking her voice into an impressive whisper, "I'm afraid for his health." "Why so, Mrs. Hudson?" "Well, he's that strange, sir. After you was gone, he walked up and down, until I was weary of the sound of his footstep. Then I heard him talking to himself and muttering, and every time the bell rang out, he came on the stairhead with, 'What is that, Mrs. Hudson?' And now he has slammed off to his room, but I can hear him walking away the same as ever. I hope he's not going to be ill, sir. I ventured to say something to him about cooling medicine, but he turned on me, sir, with such a look that I don't know how ever I got out of the room." "I don't think that you have any cause to be uneasy, Mrs. Hudson," I answered. "I have seen him like this before. He has some small matter upon his mind which makes him restless." I tried to speak lightly to our worthy landlady, but I was myself somewhat uneasy when through the long night I still, from time to time, heard the dull sound of his tread, and knew how his keen spirit was chafing against this involuntary inaction. At breakfast time he looked worn and haggard, with a little fleck of feverish color upon either cheek. "You are knocking yourself up, old man," I remarked. "I heard you marching about in the night." "No, I could not sleep," he answered. "This infernal problem is consuming me. It is too much to be balked by so petty an obstacle, when all else had been overcome. I know the men, the launch, everything, and yet I can get no news. I have set other agencies at work and used every means at my disposal. The whole river has been searched on either side, but there is no news, nor has Mrs. Smith heard of her husband. I shall come to the conclusion soon that they have scuttled the craft. But there are objections to that. Or that Mrs. Smith has put us on a wrong scent. No, I think that may be dismissed. I had inquiries made, and there is a launch of that description. Could it have gone up the river? I have considered that possibility too, and there is a search party who will work up as far as Richmond. If no news if no news comes today, I shall start off myself tomorrow and go for the men rather than the boat. But surely, we shall hear something." We did not, however. Not a word came to us either from Wiggins or from the other agencies. There were articles in most of the papers upon the Norwood tragedy. They all appeared to be rather hostile to the unfortunate Thaddeus Sholto. No fresh details were to be found, however, in any of them, save that an inquest was to be held upon the following day. I walked over to Camberwell in the evening to report our ill success to the ladies, and on my return I found Holmes dejected and somewhat morose. He would hardly reply to my questions, and busied himself all evening in an abstruse chemical analysis, which involved much heating of retorts and distilling of vapors, ending at last in a smell which fairly drove me out of the apartment. Up to the small hours of the morning, I could hear the clinking of his test tubes, which told me that he was still engaged in his malodorous experiment. In the early dawn, I woke with a start and was surprised to find him standing by my bedside, clad in a rude sailor dress with a pea jacket and a coarse red scarf round his neck. "I'm off down the river, Watson," said he. "I have been turning it over in my mind, and I can see only one way out of it. It is worth trying, at all events." "Surely I can come with you, then," said I. "No. You can be much more useful if you will remain here as my representative. I am loath to go, for it is quite on the cards that some message may come during the day, though Wiggins was despondent about it last night. I want you to open all notes and telegrams and to act on your own judgment if any news should come. Can I rely upon you?" "Most certainly." "I'm afraid that you will not be able to wire to me, for I can hardly tell yet where I may find myself. If I am in luck, however, I may not be gone so very long. I shall have news of some sort or other before I get back." I had heard nothing of him by breakfast time. On opening the Standard, however, I found that there was a fresh allusion to the business. With reference to the Upper Norwood tragedy, it remarked, we have reason to believe that the matter promises to be even more complex and mysterious than was originally supposed. Fresh evidence has shown that it is quite impossible that Mr. Thaddeus Sholto could have been in any way concerned in the matter. He and the housekeeper, Mrs. Burnstone, were both released yesterday evening. It is believed, however, that the police have a clue as to the real culprits, and that it is being prosecuted by Mr. Athelney Jones of Scotland Yard with all his well-known energy and sagacity. Further arrests may be expected at any moment. That is satisfactory so far as it goes, thought I. Friend Sholto is safe, at any rate. I wonder what the fresh clue may be, though it seems to be a stereotyped form whenever the police have made a blunder. I tossed the paper down upon the table, but at that moment my eye caught an advertisement in the agony column. It ran in this way. Lost. Whereas Mordecai Smith, boatman, and his son Jim left Smith's Wharf at or about 3 o'clock last Tuesday morning in the steam launch Aurora, black with 2 red stripes, funnel black with a white band. The sum of £5 will be paid to anyone who can give information to Mrs. Smith at Smith's Wharf or at 221B Baker Street as to the whereabouts of the said Mordecai Smith and the launch Aurora. This was clearly Holmes's doing. The Baker Street address was enough to prove that. It struck me as rather ingenious, because it might be read by the fugitives without their seeing in it more than the natural anxiety of a wife for her missing husband. It was a long day. Every time that a knock came to the door or a sharp step passed in the street, I imagined that it was either Holmes returning or an answer to his advertisement. I tried to read, but my thoughts would wander off to our strange quest and to the ill-assorted and villainous pair whom we were pursuing. Could there be, I wondered, some radical flaw in my companion's reasoning? Might he be suffering from some huge self-deception? Was it not possible that his nimble and speculative mind had built up this wild theory upon faulty premises? I had never known him to be wrong, and yet the keenest reasoner may occasionally be deceived. He was likely, I thought, to fall into error through the over-refinement of his logic. His preference for a subtle and bizarre explanation when a plainer and more commonplace one lay ready to his hand. Yet, on the other hand, I had myself seen the evidence, and I had heard the reasonings for his deductions. When I looked back on the long chain of curious circumstances, many of them trivial in themselves, but all tending in the same direction, I could not disguise from myself that even if Holmes's explanation were incorrect, the true theory must be equally outré, pretty sure it's French, and startling. Outer? Like, it looks like outer, but the R and E are backwards, and there's a tilde, or accent above the E. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a loud peal at the bell. An authoritative voice in the hall, and to my surprise, no less a person than Mr. Athelney Jones was shown up to me. Very different was he, however, from the brusque and masterful professor of common sense who had taken over the case so confidently at Upper Norwood. His expression was downcast, and his bearing meek and even apologetic. "Good day, sir, good day," said he. "Mr. Sherlock Holmes is out, I understand." "Yes, and I cannot be sure when he will be back. But perhaps you would care to wait. Take that chair and try one of these cigars." "Thank you. I don't mind if I do," said he, mopping his face with a red bandana handkerchief. "And a whiskey and soda?" "Well, half a glass. It is very hot for the time of year, and I have had a good deal to worry and try me. You know my theory about this Norwood case? I remember that you expressed one." "Well, I have been obliged to reconsider it. I had my net drawn tightly round Mr. Sholto, sir, when pop he went through a hole in the middle of it. He was able to prove an alibi which could not be shaken. From the time that he left his brother's room, he was never out of sight of someone or other. So it could not be he who climbed over roofs and through trapdoors. It's a very dark case, and my professional credit is at stake. I should be very glad of a little assistance." "We all need help sometimes," said I. Your friend Mr. Sherlock Holmes is a wonderful man, sir, said he in a husky and confidential voice. He's a man who is not to be beat. I have known that young man go into a good many cases, but I never saw the case yet that he could not throw a light upon. He is irregular in his methods and a little quick, perhaps, in jumping at theories, but on the whole, I think he would have made a most promising officer, and I don't care who knows it. I have had a wire from him this morning, which I understand that he's got some clue to this Sholto business. Here's the message. He took the telegram out of his pocket and handed it to me. It was dated from Poplar at 12 o'clock. Go to Baker Street at once, it said. If I have not returned, wait for me. I am close on the track of the Sholto gang. You can come with us tonight if you want to be in at the finish. This sounds well. He has evidently picked up the scent again, said I. Ah, then he has been at fault too, exclaimed Jones with evident satisfaction. Even the best of us are thrown off sometimes. Of course, this may prove to be a false alarm, but it is my duty as an officer of the law to allow no chance to slip. But there's someone at the door. Perhaps this is he. A heavy step was heard ascending the stair, with a great wheezing and rattling as from a man who was sorely put to it for breath. Once or twice he stopped, as though the climb were too much for him, but at last he made his way to our door and entered. His appearance corresponded to the sounds which we had heard. He was an aged man, clad in seafaring garb, with an old pea-jacket buttoned up to his throat. His back was bowed, his knees were shaky, and his breathing was painfully asthmatic. As he leaned upon a thick oaken cudgel, his shoulders heaved in the effort to draw the air into his lungs. He had a colored scarf round his chin, and I could see little of his face save a pair of keen, dark eyes, overhung by bushy white brows and long gray side whiskers. Altogether, he gave me the impression of a respectable master mariner who had fallen into years and poverty. "What is it, my man?" I asked. He looked about him in the slow, methodical fashion of old age. "Is Mr. Sherlock Holmes here?" said he. "No, but I am acting for him. You can tell me any message you have for him." "It was to him himself I was to tell it," said he. "But I tell you that I am acting for him. Was it about Mordecai Smith's boat?" "Yes. I knows well where it is. And I knows where the men he is after are. And I knows where the treasure is. I knows all about it." "Then tell me, and I shall let him know." "It was to him I was to tell it," he repeated, with the petulant obstinacy of a very old man. "Well, you must wait for him." "No, no, I ain't going to lose a whole day to please no one. If Mr. Holmes ain't here, then Mr. Holmes must find it all out for himself. I don't care about the look of either of you, and I won't tell a word." He shuffled towards the door, but Athelney Jones got in front of him. "Wait a bit, my friend," said he. "You have important information, and you must not walk off. We shall keep you, whether you like it or not, until our friend returns." The old man made a little run towards the door, but as Athelney Jones put his broad back up against it, he recognized the uselessness of resistance. "Pretty sort of treatment, this," he cried, stamping his stick. "I came here to see a gentleman, and you two, who I never saw in my life, seize me and treat me in this fashion." "You'll be none the worse," I said. "We shall recompense you for the loss of your time. Sit over here on the sofa, and we will not have long to wait." He came across sullenly enough, and seated himself with his face resting on his hands. Jones and I resumed our cigars and our talk. Suddenly, however, Holmes's voice broke in upon us. "I think that you might offer me a cigar too," he said. We both started in our chairs. There was Holmes sitting close to us with an air of quiet amusement. "Holmes," I explained, "you're here. But where is the old man?" "Here is the old man. I knew it was him, bastard," said he, holding out a heap of white hair. "Here he is, wig, whiskers, eyebrows, and all. I thought my disguise was pretty good, but I hardly expected that it would stand that test." "Ah, you rogue," cried Jones, highly delighted. "You would have made an actor, and a rare one. You had the proper workhouse cough, and those weak legs of yours are worth £10 a week. I thought I knew the glint of your eye, though. You didn't get away from us so easily, you see." I have been working in that getup all day, said he, lighting his cigar. You see, a good many of the criminal classes begin to know me, especially since our friend here took to publishing some of my cases. So I can only go on the warpath under some simple disguise like this. You got my wire? Yes, that was what brought me here. How has your case prospered? It has all come to nothing. I have had to release two of my prisoners, and there is no evidence against the other two. Never mind. We shall give you two others in the place of them. But you must put yourself under my orders. You are welcome to all the official credit, but you must act on the line that I point out. Is that agreed? Entirely, if you will help me to the men. Well, then, in the first place, I shall want a fast police boat, a steam launch, to be at the Westminster Stairs at 7 o'clock. That is easily managed. There's always one about there. But I can step across the road and telephone to make sure. Then I shall want two staunch men in case of resistance. There will be two or three in the boat. What else? When we secure the men, we shall get the treasure. I think that it would be a pleasure to my friend here to take the box round to the young lady to whom half of it rightfully belongs. Let her be the first to open it. Eh, Watson? It would be a great pleasure to me. Rather an irregular proceeding, said Jones, shaking his head. However, the whole thing is irregular, and I suppose we must wink at it. The treasure must afterwards be handed over to the authorities until after the official investigation. Certainly, that is easily managed. One other point. I should much like to have a few details about this matter from the lips of Jonathan Small himself. You know I like to work the detail of my cases out. There's no objection to my having an unofficial interview with him, either here in my rooms or elsewhere, as long as he is efficiently guarded. Well, you are master of the situation. I've had no proof yet of the existence of this Jonathan Small. However, if you can catch him, I don't see how I can refuse you an interview with him. That is understood, then? Perfectly. Is there anything else? Only that I insist upon your dining with us. It will be ready in half an hour. I have oysters and a brace of grouse, with something a little choice in white wines. Watson, you have never yet recognized my merits as a housekeeper. We await with bated breath. It's less than a week away, so that's good. Don't be too angry at me, Dom, for the cliffhanger. Let's see, where am I? Then I'll say this one because there's more time for guessing and speculating of what happened. The first story finished quite quick. Yes, you are correct with that, and I agree. Outre. That's a stupid word. One might say it's a weird word. Oh, I dare, Dom. There's no how behind it at all. I just do it. Like Nike. I feel like that was a lot of information. Like those were longer chapters. Or maybe I've just been talking a lot and that's why it's been almost 2 hours. In between chapters, maybe. So what was the point of Holmes dressing up as an old man? So asks Dom. So the initial point was, as he explained, people have gotten to know his face in like the seedier parts of London, which is not going to be helpful because they know that he's basically a cop, but not a cop. So him being recognized when he's trying to question people or seek out information in general is going to make it hard. So he dressed up all day as the old man. Now, coming back the way he did was basically just to play a prank on his buddies. Respect. Because I would do the same thing. Oh, I missed this. Sorry, Sam. Holmes is the best wingman. No desire for the pussy himself. It's true. It's very true. Although I feel like the on-screen adaptation portrays him as like a womanizer, from what I recall. I could be incorrect in those thoughts, but I swear, at least for RDJ's version, I feel, wasn't Benedict Cumberbatch Holmes, or was he Watson for something? I could see them making him player too. He's got the looks for it. Where do you think they found I almost said skiff, the launch, the steam launch, the Aurora? I want to know what happened, but they don't give us enough information for me to guess it before Holmes. Boo. Now, this other person they're saying is a male, right? The partner in crime to Jonathan Small, is that who you're meaning? The other person? I just want to be sure I answer correctly. If that is correct, then yes. I don't think that they go through all of the details that they did about the type of people, what are they called? Andronins or something like that. Saying that they're very tiny people with small feet and small hands and whatnot. Like they're all under 4 feet. The description of the people in general. I don't think they'd go through all of those details to make it into a woman or a child in the end. So based on deductive reasoning, I would say yes, it's going to be an adult man for that ethnicity. What's up, James? Better late than never. How are you, my friend? Cumberbatch's Holmes was a eunuch. The only woman any version of Holmes should desire is the woman, Irene Adler. And it's a sapiosexual attraction, not a carnal one. I don't know what sapiosexual is, Sam. Don't use big words around me. I only know medium words. Or at least not the big, your level of big words most of the time. Was he actually a eunuch? Or you're just saying that they made him asexual? Technically, this is true. People call you a bot, and I call you Lobotus. So, bots are trouble. Tired and dealing with sinuses, had to help your dad outside today. Nice. I understand that life. I am getting over, I don't really even want to call it a cold. I just got back to Colorado and immediately redeveloped my allergies because I didn't bring my allergy pills with me on my vacation. So, like, it was basically as soon as I landed. So it turned into like a cold cough situation. It is seemingly subsiding, which is nice. I can imagine all the feminists loving that line where Holmes says women can't be trusted. I thought it was a great line. Not gonna lie. That's what sapiosexual means. If I was pronouncing that right. Sapiosexual attraction. Okay. All right. Duly noted. First time I'd ever heard that in my life, though. James, be nice. You're making Legatus cry. Don't make the bot cry. Or was it me calling him a bot that made him cry? I wonder. If so, I take it back. I'm sorry. I don't want you crying over me and my actions. Nope, nope, nope. Mm-mm-mm. All right, guys. With that, I am going to go ahead and skedaddle. Thanks for hanging out for the 2-hour stream this time around because I was very chatty. Thank you again, Daramuth, if you are still listening or if you come back on the replay for the gifted sub on Rumble. I appreciate it. And the $2. Everyone else, thank you again, Dom, for the recap. I just thought about this. Holmes and Watson never are like, sorry for your loss to the other brother in the story. I mean, they didn't really have a lot of time to do that because they were trying to figure out the murder. And Thaddeus was kind of panicky and really wasn't going to be receiving that all pretty much just in general, I don't think. So they might later, unless you skimmed ahead, sir. Or is there another brother that I'm not thinking of? Like, you mean Thaddeus, I assume. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good night. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate it. Yes, go hang out with Dermy while he plays his gay Pokemon. Or Paul Hadouken. Whilst he plays the Wild Hunt, I believe is The Witcher 3. Something along those lines. I mean him. Too lazy to look up his name. Yeah, Thaddeus. That was weird. Yeah, but go hang out with Dermy. I'm not monetized, so therefore I cannot officially raid anybody. But the bot has put Dermy's link in chat, and maybe he'll put Paul's in, and you guys can jump over there from those links. If you're on Rumble, they're in the YouTube chat because they are YouTube streams. Dermy no longer does Rumble for extenuating reasons, circumstances, whatever you want to call it. Paul might. I don't know if he does Rumble. But look up Paul Hadouken. All right. Everybody, have a good night. Come hang out with me on Dermy's channel on YouTube for Ballbusters in like T-minus an hour and 56 minutes. And also pull up, gonna shout out Sam's stream because it is his 150th Abyssal Musings on Samuel the Infamous's channel as well. So, love you guys. Really appreciate you, as always, hanging out with me. And I hope you have a good night and a good weekend. I'll see you guys later. I will be on Sam's channel tomorrow. I don't know about Theo's, but I'll see you.